Thank you, Madam President. Last week, the Senate took a big bipartisan step towards honoring the life and legacy of Laken Riley, answering her loved one's call to action, and protecting American families. But that step, no matter how big, was just that, a first step. And there are many to follow if we want to follow through for the American people on the demands to secure our border and interior immigration enforcement, make it real, take it serious. And to do that, we have to break the cycle that we've seen year over year. The House passed the Laken Riley Act not once, but twice. Senator Budd took this very bill to the Senate floor last year, and unfortunately, our Democratic colleagues blocked it. I personally took the bill to the floor a second time and called on my colleagues to pass it, but not only did they say no, they stood in the way and didn't even allow us to have a hearing in the entire 118th Congress. Democrats persisted in their obstruction in moving this bill forward. It isn't just the Laken Riley Act that Democrats are standing in the way of. It is the safety and security of our American citizens. It's progress on making sure that we begin to have a more secure border and that our streets and communities are safer. But today is a new day in the United States Senate, and people's tune has changed. While I'm hearing from many of my colleagues across the aisle that they want to vote yes on this bill, that illegal aliens who commit crimes should be sent back to their country, not released onto American streets, I am optimistic, but I want to caution my colleagues. Don't revert back to your partisan tribe. We can't lose focus on what this bill is about and what it would do. It would protect American families and save innocent lives. The Laken Riley Act is bipartisan. It is straightforward. It is targeted, and it is common sense. It will ensure that illegal aliens who committed a theft-related crime after unlawfully crossing our border are off our streets before they can commit the most heinous crime imaginable. Laken Riley's killer was first arrested for coming into our country illegally. Then he was unlawfully paroled and released by the Biden administration. Then in New York, he was charged with acting in a manner to injure a child less than 17. Then, again, he was released without ICE issuing a detainer. Then in Georgia, he was charged for shoplifting. And again, he was released without ICE issuing a detainer. Jose Ibarra then went on to kill Laken Riley. The Laken Riley Act would have prevented him from running wild through our country's streets, and had it been law, it would have saved Laken Riley's life. And if we enact it into law in the coming days, it will no doubt save American lives, and it will save families from the heartbreak and tragedy that Laken Riley's family has had to endure. Now, I want to be clear. This bill does not attempt to fix every single thing in our immigration and border security system. We all know that there are plenty, and we have had several other border security and immigration enforcement bills in the works. I personally have the WALL Act and the Keep Our Communities Safe Act. But you'll notice I am not trying to tack those bills onto the Laken Riley Act as amendments, because this is a targeted bill to protect American families from criminal, illegal aliens. Isn't that common sense? Look, regardless of which side of the aisle you're on, I think this is clearly common ground that we should be able to rally around. I know that my Republican colleagues heard the American people's voices in November, and we are answering that call. The question remains, will enough Democrats join us to make it happen? Unfortunately, there are some working to create another push to block this vital legislation. So special interest groups are working around the clock right now to try to kill this bill. They are waging a campaign of misinformation, and in doing so, trying to create enough momentum so this bill doesn't become law. They have created every far-fetched hypothetical that they can dream up, but never discussing the real tragedies of Laken Riley and how they could have been stopped if we had only done our job. I've refuted their claims in conversations with my colleagues, and we will continue to do so. But what the American people should know is this. These are the same groups that have publicly fought to keep our borders wide open for years. They're the groups who thought that Joe Biden was too tough on the border and immigration, if that is even possible. We know how far out of touch that is. These are, of course, groups who don't want ICE detaining criminal illegal aliens. They're the very groups that actually wanted to abolish ICE. I am hopeful that my colleagues will listen to the verdict the American people delivered on November 5th, rather than the propaganda of these radical interest groups. The time to act is now. The American people have made their voices heard. They want action, Madam President, and they want it without any delays. They want the Laken Riley Act. It is a strong bipartisan piece of legislation that has support from both sides of the aisle in both chambers. 48 House Democrats voted for it. It's co-sponsored by Senators John Fetterman and Ruben Gallego of the Democratic Party. I am grateful for their co-sponsorship and their willingness and courage to say now is the time for results. I have been encouraged by other members of the Democratic Party who have said this is a bill I would like to see across the finish line. Last week, we had 84 senators who voted to advance it. So each one of my colleagues is left with one simple question this week. What will you choose to protect? Open borders or American families? To me, that's a pretty simple choice. It is time to fulfill the responsibility we have to the American people to protect the citizens of this country from criminals who would do them harm. It is time to make sure that what happened to Laken Riley and her family never happens again. It is time to pass the Laken Riley Act. And it is past time to choose American families. Madam President, I look forward to this body having the courage to do that this week. Thank you, and I yield the floor.